This is Pokemon Shield, a Pokemon game that I honestly haven't spent a ton of time with. I wanted to revisit this game, but with a twist. Since shields are a defensive tool, I only wanted to use the most defensive Pokemon. To qualify as a tank for my challenge, the Pokemon's highest base stat must be Defense, Special Defense, or HP. An online randomizer will determine which Pokemon I'm able to catch in each area. This will also be a hardcore Nuzlocke, so once I lose one of my Pokemon, it's gonna be gone forever. My journey begins when my friend Hop enters my house uninvited. We head to his brother Leon for the opportunity to choose our starter Pokemon. I choose the bulkiest option, Grookey, but he doesn't meet my tank criteria and he won't be on the team for very long. After beating Hop in a quick battle, I head to Route 1 where I can catch this run's true starter Pokemon, Nicholas the Nickit. After catching Nickit, I box Grookey and head to Route 2 for my second teammate, Lorenzo the Lotad. This team of two fights bravely for the rest of the route until I reach Hop for another battle. Lorenzo takes out Wooloo with water guns before the flying Pokemon Rookidee comes in. I switch to Nicholas to wear down Rookidee with quick attacks, and when Sobble hits the field, Lorenzo can return to absorb his way to victory. From there we go to the wild area, which opens up the opportunity for a bunch of new encounters. First is Mel the Metapod, who I will never be able to evolve because Butterfree's special attack is too high. Next is Harriet the Hoot Hoot, who can be very helpful for the first grass-type gym. My next one is Bella the Budew, another Pokemon who I won't be able to evolve this run. Duncan the Duskull joins the team with his very useful ghost typing. Finally, I can catch the incredibly defensive Oliver the Onix. When I arrive in Motostoke, I quickly take care of a few Team Yell members before running into Hop yet again as I'm leaving the city. I initially start out with Duncan against Wooloo since Duncan is immune to all of Wooloo's attacks, but I guess in this game Hop doesn't know to switch Pokemon, and Duncan actually can't hit Wooloo back either. Instead, I move into Oliver to smack down Wooloo. Sobble comes out very threatening to Oliver, but I switch into my same counter as last time, Lorenzo, whose Mega Drain takes Sobble out as he heals himself back up. Finally is Rookidee, and Oliver returns to finish the battle with his super effective Rock type. After this fight, Lorenzo evolves into Ludicolo. Now that I can advance to Route 3, I catch Oli the Roly-Coly. Immediately after, I go to Galar Mine to catch yet another Rock type, Roxanne the Roggenrola. I really should have expected how many Rock types would be in this challenge. Before I can leave the mine, Beatty stands in my way. He's a psychic trainer, so I begin with Nicholas, who is immune to Solstice's psychic confusion and can only be hit by Endeavor. Hatena comes out, who knows the fairy-type Disarming Voice, so I switch into bulky Onix. He gets in a bit of damage, but when his health gets too low, I swap again into Duncan. His super effective Shadow Sneaks are enough to take Hatena down. Finally is Gothita, and when Duncan's health gets into the red, I switch back into my starter Nicholas to finish it off with Snarl, winning the battle and allowing us to move on to Route 4. On Route 4, I catch Yasmin the Yamper, who isn't going to be able to evolve this run or else she'd be too fast to be a tank. And for my final Pokemon before the first gym, I return to Wedgehurst Station to catch Turbo the Galarian Slowpoke. My lineup secured, I begin training my team up to the level cap of 20. Along the way, Nicholas evolves into Thievul and Harriet evolves into Noctowl. I give Harriet the Sharp Beak to boost her flying attacks, then it's off to the gym to herd some sheep. I make my way into the stadium for my first gym match against Milo the Grass-type user. A single Air Slash obliterates Gossifleur in one hit. Eldegoss comes out next, and since Milo only has 2 Pokemon, I Dynamax Harriet now. Max Airstream is strong enough to bring Eldegoss into the yellow range, and it retaliates with a weak, not very effective Max Overgrowth. One more Airstream takes Eldegoss out. Milo is easily defeated in just 3 turns. We shake hands for a game well played, and I earn my first badge of the run. On Route 5, I catch my next encounter, Donna the Dottler, before I run into some more pesky Team Yell grunts. On the bridge, I have to battle Hop for what is already the 4th time. I once again start with Duncan against Wooloo, but this time I have a way to hit Wooloo for some damage with Payback. Wooloo keeps going for defense curl, so this takes a while, but eventually it goes down. Against Corvisquire, I swap into Oliver, who can resist its attacks well and retaliate with Smackdown. Drizzile comes out last, and once again Lorenzo is my answer to drain its health and beat Hop yet again. This allows me to enter Hulbury, where I get an encounter that would be great for the next water gym, Charlie the Chinchou. After making my way through the water gym puzzle, I'm ready for my battle against Nessa. First up is Goldeen, and I start with Charlie. Goldeen strikes with horn attacks, but just a couple of sparks take Goldeen down. Charlie's at around half health, so when Arrokuda comes out, I switch into Lorenzo, who I'm counting on to be the real MVP of this battle. Arrokuda uses Bite and Lorenzo flinches. Then Arrokuda uses Bite and Lorenzo flinches. Then Arrokuda uses Bite and Lorenzo flinches. I desperately need a change of plans. I Dynamax Lorenzo, who uses Max Overgrowth to wipe out the pesky Arrokuda in one hit. Then the fierce Dreadnought comes out, Dynamaxing as well. I keep Lorenzo out and use Max Guard twice in a row to stall out some of Dreadnaught's Dynamax turns and restore some HP with Grassy Terrain. Dreadnought is on its last turn of Dynamax and is still at full health. In order to get another Pokemon out safely, I decide to let my second ever Pokemon Lorenzo go down to a Max Darkness. I send out Harriet and try an extra Sensory, but Razor Shell does a lot of damage, and Harriet's attack doesn't do nearly enough. I'm starting to panic as I let Charlie go out, another sacrifice so I can have a safe switch. Dreadnaught's Razor Shells do a ton of damage to Yasmin, but she gets a Nuzzle in, paralyzing the Dreadnought. When Yasmin goes down, I send in my starter Nicholas, who is able to take advantage of Dreadnaught's paralysis and snarl until it goes down. I've lost 3 Pokemon to this battle, and I'm not feeling great about how close of a game it was, but I do earn my second gym badge, and I get to continue onward to the next part of the Galar Mine. In the mine, I try to catch myself a Shuckle, but it won't stay in the ball and starts to use Rollout. I have to run away before things get disastrous for my team. I run into Beatty again, but this time I have an even better strategy to take out his team. Thievul now knows Nasty Plot, and Soul Assist still can't hit him with anything other than Endeavor. So, Nicholas gets to set up 3 Nasty Plots, maximizing his special attack, and allowing him to absolutely destroy all of Beatty's team members. On my way out of the mine, Hop and I take care of some Team Yell nuisances, and Oli evolves into Carkol. My encounter for the Motostoke outskirts is Throw, but he uses Circle Throw on me, ending the battle before I have the chance to capture it. The last thing I have to do before heading to the Fire Gym is battle Marnie in the Budew Drop-In. She starts with Krogunk, which is no match for a single extra Sensory from Harriet. Morpeko comes out and I switch into Oliver. Morpeko is fast and knows Bite, meaning it has the potential to ruin my entire team with flinches the way Nessa's Arrokuda did. Fortunately, Oliver only flinches once, meaning he has the chance to use Rock Slide for some decent damage before needing to switch. Nicholas unfortunately falls victim to the flinching problem, and he doesn't get any more damage in against Morpeko before falling into the red. I send out Mel as a sacrifice for a switch since I can't evolve him anyways. This allows Oli to come in and use a couple flame charges, but he soon needs to switch again too. I send out Bella, another unevolvable sacrifice, and she actually poisons Morpeko with Poison Point as she goes down. Harriet comes out and finishes the torturous Morpeko with one last Air Slash. Her final Pokemon is Scraggy, and one Air Slash finishes this battle. Choosing only tanky Pokemon means they can be rather slow, and as I've learned from my recent losses, this makes them extra susceptible to flinches. Still, I get to continue onward to the third Fire-type gym. Kabu starts with Ninetales, who uses Ember on Oli, raising his speed with Steam Engine. Oli follows up with 3 Ancient Powers, breaking down Ninetales' health. Arcanine comes out next, and I'm running low on Ancient Power PP, so I Dynamax now to try and take Arcanine out in one hit with Max Rockfall. It doesn't quite do enough damage, so I finish it off with a Max Flare. Last comes Centiskorch, who is 4 times weak to Max Rockfall, but Gigantamaxes to increase its HP, and even Oli's super effective Rockfall isn't enough to take it down. Out of Rock-type power points, I try to finish it off with a Flame Charge, not realizing Centiskorch has Flash Fire. That means I need to switch into Oliver, who can take a Max Flutterby, then use Smackdown to defeat Kabu's final Pokemon. I collect my 3rd gym badge, then it's off to a new part of the wild area for my next encounters. First I head to North Lake Mylock to catch Dwebby the Dwebble. Then I head to the riverbank to find the defensive Della the Dubwool. At the Giant's Mirror, I try to catch a Durant, but Carkol accidentally knocks it out. Up at Giant's Cap, I catch Elias the Eldegoss. Then I actually fail to catch a Charjabug of all Pokemon, after failing for several minutes to keep it in a Pokeball. I circle back to South Lake Mylock to catch Clark the Clink, whose Steel typing could be useful for my team, but whose level is far too low at the moment. I catch yet another Rock-type Pokemon, Tree the Sudowoodo at the Bridge Field, then miss out on catching a tough Rhyhorn in the Stony Wilderness. Finally done working my way through that exhausting list of wild area encounters, I make it to Route 6, where my team wipes out a few Team Yell grunts. On my way, I have to face Beauty and Nita, whose 2 Pokemon only know the move Metronome, which means anything can happen in this battle. Della handles most of the battle, but when Anita's last Pokemon Clefable is using Uproar, her health gets too low and she needs to switch. I send out Oli, who resists the Uproar and could then finish Clefable off, but on the following turn, Clefable's Metronome rolls Mudshot, a 4 times effective attack that quickly withers Oli's health down to 0. This was really disappointing, and I've been looking forward to using Colossal on my team. Nicholas comes in to finish this tragic battle with the priority quick attack. It's time to catch a new friend though, and Johann the Yamask soon joins the team. Getting Johann to evolve into Runerigus though is quite a process. First I challenge Black Belt Brian, who has one Pokemon, a Cottony with Endeavor and a Focus Sash, but I can take it out with Duncan, who can't be affected by Endeavor. Brian then gives me a Focus Sash, which I equip to Johann. Now I need to find a Pokemon who can do 49 damage to Yamask in a single hit, and I do that with a Wild Dreadnought that knows Bite. I run away from battle, then take Johann to the Dusty Bowl, where in a specific spot, he can evolve into Runerigus. I make my way through the rest of Route 6, battling trainers to level up as I go. Before I make it to the 4th Ghost-type gym, I need to battle Hop again. Della, my incredible new tank, headbutts Cramorant just twice to knock it out. Silly Cobra faints after just a few more headbutts, but thanks to some flinches, Della is still at full health. Against Drizzile, I send out Elias, and Leaf Tornado wears it down very quickly. Finally is Toxel, and I get to conclude this battle with my brand new Runerigus. I make my way through the gym, then prepare my team to go against Alistair. Alistair starts with Yamask, so I start with Harriet, who is immune to its Ghost-type Hex and handles its brutal swings pretty well. A few extra sensories take Yamask down. Cursula is next, so I switch into Della, who I taught the super effective payback to, but Cursula curses Della when she comes out. Before Della can take too much damage from the curse, I send out Nicholas to knock Cursula out. Mimikyu is next, frighteningly using Hone Claws twice, though Nicholas breaks through its disguise. Still, I want to preserve Nicholas's health, so I switch back into Harriet. Mimikyu's powered up Slash does way too much damage, and Harriet's Air Slash does not enough in return. I decide to use the sacrifice I brought for this battle, Turbo the Slowpoke, to get my safe switch into Oliver. I Dynamax Oliver using a Max Rockfall to finish the Mimikyu off. Finally is Alistair's team leader, Gengar, who Gigantamaxes. Oliver survives a Max Darkness, then retaliates with a powerful super effective Max Quake, bringing Gengar's health very low. Unfortunately, Gengar goes for Max Terror. I'm one turn away from defeating Gengar with another Quake, but Oliver's health shoots down until he falls. This was not a loss I was prepared to face. Nicholas comes in to finish off Gengar with a Snarl, but I've just lost one of my strongest team members. Disappointed, I collect my 4th gym patch. Next I have to stop BD from committing vandalism, and I do it the same way I did last time I fought him. Setting up nasty plots against his Duosion, then letting Nicholas rip through his whole team. In the Glimwood Tangle, I catch Oriana the Oranguru, then fight my way to Balinlea. When I get there, I obtain the Eviolite, which I give to Clark before entering the Balinlea gym. Clark's super effective Gear Grind is strong enough to get me through almost all of the gym trainer's fairy-type Pokemon, and I evolve him into Clang before heading to the 5th gym leader, Opal. Opal's first team member is Galarian Weezing, and I start with Johann to conserve Clang's health and work down Weezing with Shadow Claws. Mawile is next, and I send out Della to use Double Kicks. This is a very slow process, and it takes a bunch of turns to wear it down, but Mawile can't do much damage back, and eventually, Della's Double Kicks do the job. Togekiss comes out third, and now is Clark's time to take the field. I Dynamax him, and just one of his Max Steel Spikes takes Togekiss down. Opal's final Pokemon Alchemy Gigantamaxes, but its Fairy-type attacks can't do much of anything to Clark, and 2 more Steel Spikes later, Clark has helped me earn my 5th gym badge of the run. With that, I head back to Hammerlock and, you guessed it, battle Hop yet again. I start out with Nicholas against his new Trevenant, taking out with just a couple of Snarls. Heatmor comes out next, so I switch into Johann, who is immune or resistant to most of Heatmor's attacks, and can strike back with Rock Blast. Voltund is Hop's 3rd Pokemon, and Johann is defensive enough to stay in on a super effective Crunch, even though it gets a critical hit. Johann takes a bit more than half of Voltund's health with Shadow Claw, but then I need to switch back into Nicholas on a resisted Crunch so we can finish Voltund off with a Snarl. Hop has a frightening tank of his own with Snorlax, and I start out with Oriana. Snorlax's special defense is too high for Oriana to do much of anything before she gets paralyzed by Body Slam though, so I switch into Della to start using Headbutts. Fortunately, one of her Headbutts gets a crit, making the process of working down Snorlax's health much faster until she can knock it out. Finally is Hop's Inteleon, and Della takes it down into the yellow with a Headbutt before she needs to switch. Harriet comes out at full health, but Inteleon's speedy snipe shots are a little too strong. It takes a mixture of Roosting and Air Slashes for Harriet to whittle down Inteleon's health until she is able to take the kill and finish the most challenging Hop battle yet. This allows me to progress to Route 7 where I can catch my next encounter, Emperor the Seismitoad. After that, I head to Route 8 where I try to catch a Vullaby, but uses Whirlwind and I miss another opportunity for a new team member. Still, I continue onwards to the Kirchester Gym, the Ice-type leader, Melanie. Melanie's first Pokemon is Frostmoth, who is no match for a quick 4x effective Rock Blast from Johann. Darmanitan comes out next, and Rock Blast hits twice to bring it down to half health. Its Icicle Crash is super effective and does a ton of damage to Johann, but another Rock Blast is 4x effective now that Darmanitan has changed forms and takes it out. My answer for Ice-Q is Clark, but in order to get him out safely, I need to let Roxanne out as a sacrifice. Clark comes out and misses with his first Gear Grind. Ice-Q's ice attacks do very little damage though. The next Gear Grind hits twice as usual, the first hit breaking Ice-Q's Ice Face Disguise, then the second hit taking down half of its health. One more Gear Grind finishes it off. Lapras is Melanie's final Pokemon, and it's a Pokemon I'm a little afraid of. I send in Tree as Lapras Gigantamaxes, and Tree is the perfect sacrifice to handle Lapras. It has the Sturdy ability, meaning it takes 2 turns to get rid of Tree, wasting 2 of Lapras' Gigantamax turns. Tree can even use Sucker Punch for a little bit of extra damage before it goes down. This allows me to safely bring Clark back in on Lapras' 3rd Gigantamax turn. I Dynamax Clark and use Max Guard to stall Lapras out, and it reverts to its original form. It takes 2 more turns of super effective Max Lightning to defeat Lapras and earn my 6th gym badge of the run. After the gym battle, I have to battle Hop for what is fortunately the last time until the semifinals. He starts out with a double that can't hit ghost types, so I start out with Johann and very slowly Rock Blast it to death, especially since after 4 turns of Rock Blast, Hop uses a Hyper Potion. Eventually Double does go down though, but not before Johann completely running out of Rock Blast PP and losing most of its health to hail damage. Inteleon comes out next, and I switch into Elias, who repeatedly uses Synthesis until he can take Inteleon out with Leaf Tornado. Hop's 3rd Pokemon is Corviknight, who I take out with Clark's super effective Discharges. Snorlax is next, and 2 of Clark's Gear Grinds take it down to very low red health, and the Hail finishes the job. Hop's final Pokemon is Pincurchin, so I send out Emperor to take most of its health with the Dig, then finish it off with a Bubble Beam. On Route 9, I get my last encounter before the 7th gym, Marina the Marini. Before entering Spikemouth, I have to battle Marnie. Her Liepard can only damage Clark with Sucker Punch, so I have the opportunity to set up Shift Gears until I've maximized Clark's attack. Unfortunately, Liepard hits Clark with a Torment, meaning I only ever get to use Gear Grind every other turn. I take Liepard out with Discharge, then Scrafty comes in. Unfortunately, Gear Grind misses, but Scrafty just goes for Scary Face, and on the following turn, Clark charges as Scrafty goes for Scary Face again. Finally, I'm able to use another Gear Grind and take Scrafty out. Toxicroak comes next, and I'm not able to go for Gear Grind 2 turns in a row. Unfortunately, Toxicroak takes this opportunity to confuse Clark with Swagger, and with his attack so high, it's not safe for Clark to risk hitting himself while Toxicroak can Sucker Punch him. I switch into Harriet, who makes quick work of Toxicroak with a 4x effective Psychic Extrasensory. Finally comes Morpeko, and Seismitoad is a great counter, taking out with a single dig. Before the next gym, I evolve Dwebby into Crustle, then fight my way through the Team Yell trainers who block my path to Piers. Pierce's Scrafty is no match for Harriet, who obliterates it with a single Moonblast. When Malamar comes out next, I switch into Dwebby. Its foul plays do a lot of damage, and unfortunately even a 4x effective Bug Bite isn't enough to take it out. I swap into Della to finish the job with Headbutt. Obstagoon is next, so I let Emperor out to do some damage with Bubble Beam, fearing Obstagoon's counterattack if I use a physical move. This isn't strong enough though, and I end up needing to let Donna the Dottler go as a sacrifice in order to get Clark in safely. With a mixture of charge and discharge, Clark works down the rest of Obstagoon's health. All that's left is Skuntank, so I start setting Clark up with Shift Gears to raise his attack and speed. When I'm ready, I go for Gear Grind, but Skuntank uses Sucker Punch that turn. Frighteningly, Clark survives on just 4 HP, but thankfully his Gear Grind hits and takes Skuntank out. Except, Skuntank's Aftermath ability triggers, claiming Clark's final 4 health points and costing me one of my greatest Pokemon. Clark was one of my most useful team members for the past 3 gyms, and I was planning on using him all the way through the championship match. This last minute Aftermath kill was an unexpected punch in the gut, and I was truly sad to lose Clark on my team. The way I play with the Dupes Clause is that if a team member of mine dies, it is possible for me to get another one once I get a new encounter. Doing this fills my Nuzlocke with dramatic, joyous encounters when an old friend that I lost can heroically return from the dead. This means I can reunite with Charlie, now a Lantern, by encountering him in the Dusty Bowl. His water typing will be useful against Raihan's gym, which includes rock and ground type Pokemon despite being a dragon type gym. The double battles I have to play in various weather conditions before getting to Raihan can be a bit tricky, but I make it through without any casualties, and I'm ready to face who might be the most difficult trainer in all of Galar, Raihan. Raihan starts with Flygon and Gigalith, the latter of which sets up Sandstorm with its ability. Flygon hits both Emperor and Charlie with Breaking Swipe, then Emperor burrows under the ground with Dig. Charlie uses Icy Wind, which hits both opponents but is 4 times super effective on Flygon. Finally, Gigalith decides to be a nuisance by setting up Stealth Rock. Not much changes on the following turn. Emperor comes back up to attack Gigalith, and everyone else uses the exact same moves except Gigalith, who body presses into Emperor. On the following turn, Emperor uses Bubble Beam to bring Gigalith into the red, and Lantern goes for an Icy Wind that I think should kill both opponents, but tragically it misses Flygon and leaves Gigalith with what I can only assume is 1 HP. This means Gigalith can hit Charlie with Body Press, and my newest team member is taken from me again. Rest in peace, take 2, Charlie. Della comes in to take Flygon out with Headbutt, and Emperor defeats Gigalith with Hyper Voice, meaning Raihan's last 2 Pokemon come out at the same time. I swap Elias in for Emperor while Duraludon Gigantamaxes, hitting Della with the crazy Max Knuckle that she fortunately survives. On the following turn, Johan comes in on a Max Knuckle, immune to the attack, and wasting one of Duraludon's Gigantamax turns. Elias then gets great damage against Sandaconda, only for it to trigger Sandstorm again with its ability Sand Spin. This battle is such a pain. Johan Dynamaxes, but this turn Duraludon decides to target Elias, and with 1 swift Max Rock Ball, I lose the second teammate in this treacherous battle. Johan's Max Phantom doesn't do nearly enough damage, and Harriet comes out to take Elias's place. Harriet hits Duraludon with a Moonblast, then gracefully dodges a Stone Edge. Johan's Max Phantom can now take Duraludon out. Sandaconda is a bit of a nuisance at the end here, stalling a bit with Protect, but eventually Harriet is able to hit with an Air Slash, winning us our final gym battle. That was a lot, and I was definitely hanging on for dear life during that fight. While I'm disappointed to lose 2 team members, I'm actually more grateful that I didn't lose more. With that, I can get my Route 10 Pokemon, and you will never believe who I rolled for my encounter. Clark, the legend, isn't done fighting yet. On my way to Winden, Marina evolves into Toxapex, and Clark finally gets the chance to evolve into Klinklang. After a few more challenging trainer battles, I arrive in the city for the semi-finals. Marnie is my first opponent, and her Liepard can only damage Clark with Snarl. After using Charge to boost my special defense and healing with leftovers, Liepard can't do much to Clark at all, allowing him to set up Shift Gears to boost his attack and speed. All of this setup allows Clark to wipe out every single one of Marnie's Pokemon himself. I don't need to switch once this whole battle, and her team is completely destroyed. Clark's return couldn't be more epic. Up next is a much more difficult battle against Hawk. We start out Double versus Double, and though Della almost takes the kill, she gets paralyzed by Body Slam and isn't able to move on her last turn, meaning I need to switch in Johan to finish it off. Snorlax is next, and a few of Johan's Rock Blasts do the trick. Against Corviknight, I send out Clark, who sets up a bit with Shift Gear and charges before knocking it out with a super effective Discharge. Emperor comes out against Pincurchin, and while he does get poisoned, it only takes 2 digs to knock it out. That leaves Hop's final Pokemon, Inteleon. This is when I make a terrible mistake. I send out Marina, who can Toxic Stall Inteleon out with a combination of Toxic and Baneful Bunker. However, I haven't actually used Marina in battle before, and once she's on the field, I realize I misread her moveset. She has Toxic Spikes, not Toxic. I stall out 2 of Inteleon's Dynamax turns before switching to Debbie to take the 3rd. When Inteleon reverts to normal, Dwebby goes down to a Snipe Shot, my first loss of the semifinals. But this allows Clark to come back in with full health. He Dynamaxes, but even 2 super effective Max Lightnings aren't enough to take Inteleon out before Clark gets hit by a horrible critical hit, his health plummeting into the red. My team is in no shape for a safe switch, so I need to make another sacrifice if I want to keep Clark alive, and I let Marina go down to another of Inteleon's attacks. Finally, Emperor can come back out and finish the last sliver of Inteleon's health with a Hyper Voice, winning me the semifinals with 2 unfortunate losses. Before I go to the finals, I have a bit more story to get through and a battle against Olina that goes very well. Nicholas takes out Frostlass, Clark takes out Milotic, Johan takes out Salazzle, Harriet takes out Serena, and Emperor takes out Garbodor. It's a great team effort where a bunch of my team members get to shine using their type advantages. Then, with my team of Thieful, Runerigus, Klinklang, Dubwool, Noctowl, and Seismitoad, I enter the Winden Championship. After his training with Opal, BD's team is now full of fairy types. Clark can take Mawile's attack well and heal up with leftovers, so he sets up his shift gears until his attack is high enough to completely demolish all of BD's Pokemon. Clark gets his second solo sweep in Winden, and I'm so happy to have my gear buddy back. The battle against Nessa will be much trickier, as I know from my battle with her in my stocks video. Harriet takes most of Glycopod's health with Air Slash, triggering its emergency exit. Barraskewda can do a lot of damage with Ice Fang, but another Air Slash brings my opponent into the yellow, and then I can switch into Emperor. Emperor takes a good bit of damage himself, but he finishes Barraskewda off with a Dig. Della is my counter to Seaking, taking its hits well and powering through it with Headbutts. Glycopod returns, doing a lot of damage with First Impression, but Della headbutts her way to another KO. Pelipper comes out next, and it begins to rain due to its drizzle. I send out Harriet while Pelipper goes for Tailwind, increasing the speed of their whole team. I don't want Nessa's final Dreadnought to benefit from either Rain or Tailwind, so Harriet's job is to stall out Rain and Tailwind, and I time the switch into Clark perfectly to match up with the end of Tailwind, meaning he can kill off Pelipper with Discharge before it gets to set up again. Clark and Dreadnought have an intense Dynamax battle, hitting each other with powered up attacks, but both surviving with their incredible bulk. When they return to their original forms, Clark can outspeed and deplete the remainder of Dreadnought's health with Discharge, winning me my second battle. For Battle 3 of the championship against Alistair, I give the leftovers to Nicholas and teach him Protect. This means I can set up 2 nasty plots, tripling his special attack, while healing a bit each turn. This special attack boost means that Nicholas can take out every single one of Alistair's Pokemon, and I get my second solo sweep of the championship. It's so great to see my starter shine like this, and I'm glad he made it all the way to the finals with me. Raihan's team will be considerably more difficult to defeat. Harriet starts out against Torkoal, and thanks to a flinch from Air Slash, she can take it out without taking any damage herself. This means she can stay in to damage Goodra with Moonblast and use Roost to heal up anytime Goodra hits with Thunder. She almost gets the kill, but Raihan uses a full restore, meaning we'll have to do this Moonblast Roost cycle a little longer until Goodra gets a critical hit. Harriet has been a crucial team member since the very first gym, and it's heartbreaking to lose her so close to the end. Emperor comes out and finishes Goodra with Dig. Della comes out next, and with a couple of Cotton Guards, she can maximize her defense, rendering Flygon's attacks mostly useless. Once her defenses are all set up, she goes for a Headbutt, doing good damage, and Flygon gets another critical hit for Raihan, and shockingly loses me as second team member. The odds have not been in my favor so far this match, and I'm beginning to panic as the second crucial team member of mine goes down. Johan comes in next and gets in a little damage with Shadow Claw before I switch again into Emperor to finish it off. Turtonator is next, so I Dynamax now and decimate it with a Max Quake. Duraludon comes out and Gigantamaxes, but Seismitoad survives its attacks, and 2 super effective Max Quakes later, Raihan is defeated thanks to Emperor, and despite losing 2 crucial team members. My battle with Leon is interrupted by Rose, who is basically going to end the world, but before I deal with that, I need to replace my fallen team members. I catch Malcolm the Mantike in the Lake of Outrage, who I evolve into Mantine, then catch Brody the Bronzong at Axu's Eye. Next, I grab the legendary Shield, the perfect item for my tanky team. This means it's time to face Chairman Rose, whose Steel-type team is actually a bit of a problem. I start with Johan, Earthquaking until I take Escavalier down. Up next is Ferrothorn, Rose's most problematic Pokemon. This thing's hits are insanely powerful, and its grass coverage renders my super effective ground types completely useless. My team only has one way to handle this threat, and unfortunately, it means losing Johan. He takes himself out to place a curse on Ferrothorn, which will eat away at its health each turn. Thank you for your sacrifice, Johan. Clark comes out, stalling out the curse with Protects and Shift Gears until he can take the last tiniest bit of Ferrothorn's health out with a Discharge. Rose sends out his own Klinklang, who gets destroyed by a couple of Emperor's digs. From there, it's just a matter of Dynamaxing Emperor and using Max Quake to take out Rose's final 2 Pokemon. I'm really glad to have Seismitoad on my team. His HP is absurdly high and his typing provides great offensive options, making him quite a hero in these final fights. And quite a hero he continues to be, taking out the first round of Eternatus' health. Then, Eternatus Eternamaxes, but at this point, Hop, Zamazenta, and Zacian are all helping me, so I kind of just stall until my teammates can finish that terrifying legendary off. Eventually, I catch Eternatus for myself, but I can't use it. Not only do I not allow legendaries in my Nuzlocks, but its special attack is too high, and I've managed to make it all the way to the champion with only the tankiest Pokemon. The level cap between the finals and Leon is a pretty dramatic 10 level jump, so I spend some time training until my strongest team members are at the level cap, and when I think I'm ready, I head into my final battle of Pokemon Shield. Leon's first Pokemon is Aegislash, and by playing around its King's Shield move, Nicholas can set up Nasty Plot, then go for Snarl while it's in Blade form to take it out. Seismitoad is out next, and to get a safe switch, I let Nicholas go down to a Drain Punch. This is my final battle of the run, so I'm not taking any chances to keep my teammates alive. My starter Nicholas needs to go down for a chance at becoming champion. Malcolm comes out next, working through Seismitoad's health with Air Slash. Unfortunately, Leon uses a full restore here, meaning that Malcolm goes down to a Drain Punch before he can get the kill. Orianna comes in, setting up Nasty Plot as Seismitoad toxics her, and tragically on the following turn, Seismitoad gets a critical hit Earthquake, and Orianna succumbs to her poison. This Seismitoad has been such a problem, and this kind of bad luck could ruin my whole team. Clark comes out to finish Seismitoad off though. Against Cinderace, I bring out my own Emperor to dig it to death. But then comes the scariest Pokemon on Leon's team, Haxorus. I switch into Clark, but it's right about now that I'm really missing Harriet and her Moonblast Roost strategy. Clark stalls for a little bit, setting up Shift Gear and using a few protects against Haxorus' Outrage, but after narrowly surviving an Earthquake, he has to go for a Gear Grind. It does a ton of damage to Haxorus, but it isn't enough, and I lose my fourth teammate of the match. It's not over yet though, as Duncan the Dusclops comes out. He survives an Outrage, then uses Curse, knocking himself out, but taking Haxorus with him. Dragapult comes next, and I send out my final Pokemon, Emperor. He Dynamaxes, then hits with a Max Quake that works through most of Dragapult's health. Emperor survives a Shadow Ball with just 14 HP, and I go for Max Geyser to finish Dragapult off. Leon's last Pokemon is his speedy Charizard, but I've prepared for this. By using Max Geyser last turn, I set up the Rain, which will increase Emperor's water attacks by 50% power. Not only that, but Emperor has the Swift Swim ability, causing him to move faster in the rain. This means he outspeeds Charizard with a powered up, super effective Max Geyser that brings Charizard into the red. Charizard uses a Max Overgrowth and my run is over. Just one turn or one crit away from victory. If I had different luck, could I have won this battle? Yes. If I had taken the time to level up my weaker teammates to the level cap, would that have helped? Probably, but I did think I had a plan that could have won me the championship. I'm still tremendously proud of how far this team came, especially since not only was it a hardcore Nuzlocke, but my team choices were very limited by the rule I added about their stats making them all tanks. This was an incredibly fun run to play through, and I got to use so many neat Pokemon who I might usually overlook. I hope I get to reunite with lots of my fallen team members again in other playthroughs and challenges, but for now, this has been Pokemon Shield with only the tankiest of Pokemon.